Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan Basha, the business doctor. Following our conversations with empowered women who woke up one day and consciously claimed, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I am empowered to grow. And along their empowering journey towards realizing their own potential and their quest for growth, they became a beacon of hope and guidance for others. May you also find your inner power to grow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Empowered to Grow. This is your host, Hanan Basha. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Loubna Zarrou. We met over Clubhouse. So that's the many perks of Clubhouse, is running into amazing people from around the world. And we connected on more than one level just because of the conversations we're having and our missions that are aligned. Loubna is an international certified speaker. She's an award-winning novelist. She's all about entrepreneurs, all about empowering them. And she was also a podcast host. She's a creator and co-host of the podcast Entrepreneur Sushi Club podcast, which is interesting. And we're going to delve into that deeper. Loubna, welcome to the show. And thank you for accepting my invite.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here, Hanan.
Thank you. So I always start with this question. When I asked you to be on the podcast and I said, my podcast is called Empowered to Grow, what does that mean for you? What does that how does that resonate with you?
It resonates with me in a very big way, because when I look back to my life up to this point, I'm very fortunate to have some people. There weren't a lot of people that were mentoring me and guiding me and empowering me to step into who I am, to fully step into my strengths, to my talents, and to show up as the person that I am, instead of trying to mold me into something that they thought I should be or how I should show up in the world. And which is something that happens very regularly. I mean, when we grow up, we tend to follow what our parents or caregivers do and model that behavior. Sometimes even they decide on who we want to do. If you've ever been a little girl, if you can see it sometimes with a little girl or a little boy right now, and they say, don't do that, don't be too loud, don't be this, don't be that. Yes. Instead of letting a young child be who they want to be, so that they can discover the broadness of who they are and how they want to show up in the world. And for me, empowering to grow is showing people through stories, through leading by example, so that they are given permission, because they need to relearn that permission to really step into who they are when they are in a situation where they feel, is this all there is to my life? There has to be more. But I just don't know what that is, and how am I going to discover it? And it's so valuable to have other people that you can see and model after and use as an inspiration to see what their journey was about. Doesn't mean that you go through the same journey as they did, but you can see what the steps and decisions that they made to step into something that is bigger, because they felt that inkling inside of them. There is something more. There's more to me. I'm supposed to be doing something else, or something more, or something bigger, whatever the sensation is for you. So yeah, it resonated with me tremendously.
Okay, that's great. I knew that was going to happen, and that's why I'm like, I have to interview you. So from that perspective, tell us a bit about your story and how whether you've empowered yourself to grow or you've been empowered to grow.
I'm very fortunate to have done both. So in the beginning of my life, it was more being empowered to grow. So my parents have always said, just do whatever you want to do and learn whatever you want to do. For me, that translated into, ever since I was a little girl, I have a love of learning. And it started with books. So my mother would go with us after school once a week. We'd go to the library. I know it's almost impossible to imagine in these day and ages, because we tend to go to YouTube and Google right now. Exactly. But when I was growing up, that if you wanted to do something,
there was a physical library, people we used to go to it, check out books.
Physical building filled with rows of books on a variety of topics. And we would go every week. My mother would take us and we would check out 2 or 3 books. And I would usually read them within 48 hours and then go, Mom, can we go again? She was like, but we go once a week. And I devoured books. So I really loved that. And my parents saw that in me, and they saw that I did something else with it. I just didn't read it for me. What I also did was I got my siblings around me who were younger. I'm the eldest of the family, around me, and then started sharing what I had read. So I taught. So I learned and I taught. I learn and I teach. I learn and I teach. And that has been with me all of my life. I learn and I teach others.
Yes.
And that's with me. Even I remember my parents buying me a chalkboard with chalk. I know that ages me, and I know that there are some people that might be listening or watching this right now that think, what is she talking about? What is that? Well, Google it. You can find what I'm looking for. They still exist to this day. And they bought me a chalkboard. And when I started to learn and teach, when I taught, I was get my siblings around me who were way too young to understand what I was doing. But for me, it was the joy of doing it. And I would write down on that chalkboard what I had learned and taught them what I had learned in those books. So that's how my parents empowered me. They saw something that sparks my excitement, my passion, my joy, and they empowered me by buying that chalkboard. My mother was going with me to the library and getting new books, and the more weeks passed, the more books I would check out. That I would go to the maximum. I think it was 5 books or something, and I would check out those 5 books and read them within a couple of days because I loved reading so much. So that is something. When I fast forward to my corporate career, I was very lucky to have my very first manager was an extremely good mentor to me, because he taught me the importance of what a good manager is. And I still remember to this day, because when he hired me to do a job, he said, "Loubna, your job description doesn't exist yet because we've just transitioned. We decentralized the organization and we're still in that build-up phase. So your job description doesn't exist. So go out there and create it." And I was taught you're going to go to university or school or whatever it is for you, and you'll get a job description. The job description will tell you what you need to do.
Yes.
And sometimes even how you need to do it. So that was what I was conditioned to believe. So when he said, your job description does not exist yet, go out and create it, I was like, but if it doesn't exist, then you need to tell me what I need to do. And he said the magical sentence. He said, "Look, but you're the expert. I'm just the manager. You're the one that has been taught IT. I don't know anything about IT. I hired you because you've got an expertise that I don't. My only job here as a manager is to facilitate you into providing that expertise for our clients."
That's a boss from heaven, isn't it?
That's a manager from heaven. And at that time, I thought, I know he's right, because I don't have an argument against what he said.
Exactly.
And I thought, yeah, I can't fight you on that, because yes, I'm the one with the knowledge, even though I'm green as nothing. I mean, I barely finished university, but what he said was true. I didn't know how else to respond. I said, yeah, you're right. He said, so go out and discover what it is. So he taught me 2 things. One, a job description does matter. I've never looked at a job description ever again. This is over 20 years ago. So I did job crafting before job crafting was a thing. That's one. Number 2, he taught me what you can expect from a manager, which is facilitating the experts in delivering their expertise. That is their sole job, facilitating us. And he even later on taught me another lesson, which was, I'm here to get the punches when something goes wrong, because then it's my responsibility, not yours. So if whenever one of our senior executives was mad, he said, I'm taking those punches, not you. So I'm in the middle between you and that other person. So he really defined how I looked at a manager ever since then. So he empowered me to discover what my talents are in the workplace, because I had to discover, okay, what are my clients looking for? What are the senior executives looking for in the transition that they had to make? And how could I provide that with my knowledge, with my skills, with my talents? So I really went out, how can I match that between what is needed and what I can provide?
Right.
I was experimenting in that moment in time, and I've been experimenting ever since. There isn't a challenge that I do not step into and try to. So that's another way that I was empowered to do so. And later on, as you mature in your corporate career, let's use that word, you start there starts a balance between other people empowering you and you empowering yourself, because you've laid the foundation of, okay, I know who I am. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. So now I can start explaining to people, okay, if you want me to provide this, this is the way that I can best provide it. This is how I thrive and flourish. But don't ask me to do it this way because I'm not good at it. So it will take me 3 to 4 times longer to do it. I can do it, but just bear in mind, don't ask me to do it in the next 24 hours because I can't. That's not part of how I show up in the world. So and now I can say I'm in the phase of, I still need other people to empower me, but it's a very small chunk.
Yes.
So it moves from a large chunk to a smaller chunk.
Yes.
I have the next chunk is I empower myself, but I've added a third chunk to the list, which is I empower others. So now I'm giving it back. I'm paying it forward what I've been learned. So those are a couple of examples of my journey and how empowering and empowerment was part of it.
I love that. So now if you take kind of go back in time and you're talking to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her? What would be the message?
Keep going. So it's actually a really good question, because in one of the very first books that I co-authored, I wrote a chapter consisting of a letter to my younger self.
Yes.
I just wrote it to my 10-year-old self and not my 18-year-old self, where I shared everything that has happened to this little girl from when she was 10 to up to that moment that book was published in 2018. And I don't regret anything that happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly, anything. I've looked back because as a research for that chapter, I look back to all of my life and the highlights and the things that I remember that stuck with me. And some of the advice that I wrote in that chapter were just keep going. I know that it's horrible. It feels horrible what you're going through right now. And you think it's the end of the world, but it's not. You're going to grow from this. You're going to use these stories, these events as inspiration for other people so that you can empower them however they are going through something. You're going to be an inspiration to others because they're going to come up to you and say, thank you for sharing that. Now I know the decision that I need to make.
Exactly.
Or thank you for sharing that. Now I feel that I have permission to step into something different because I never thought it was possible, but you showed me that it is possible. So those are the things that I would share.
I love that. Now let's take the other end of the spectrum. What would you like your 80-year-old self to thank you for?
Oh, my 80-year-old self. So thank me for making the decisions that would make sure that when I'm lying on my deathbed and think, what would I've loved to do? And do I regret anything? That I would be able to say, I don't regret anything. I've done everything that I felt compelled to do, that I felt called to do, even though the circumstances weren't the best, even though I might not know everything or might not know the right people, I still gave it a try. I still stepped into it and started that experiment to see where it would take me, knowing that I would at minimum learn something from it, and it would provide me with another story to share about how you can go through life.
No regrets then.
Yes, because let's be honest, if you've ever read the book or Googled the 5 regrets of the dying, which were written by a nurse who did palliative care for people at a later age, and asked them, is there anything that you regret? Number 1 is, I regret not having pursued my dreams and spent more time with the people that I care about. It's the one thing that they consistently shared. And I think it's a very powerful message. How many of us right now listening to this or watching this are thinking, I've got a dream, but I'm not taking steps towards that dream, even if it's a micro step, even if it's right now watching a certain YouTube video because it's a baby step towards your dream. I'm not someone who advocates taking the big leaps if that's not you, if that doesn't resonate with you. But how many of us feel that they are called for something bigger, that they have a dream about something else? I mean, I literally this morning, because for me it's noon right now, so depending on where you are in the world when you're watching or listening to this, it could be morning, could be evening. I interviewed a lady for my podcast. This woman is 56 years old, and the only thing that she is absolutely passionate about is becoming a professional DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people will hear that and think, oh my God, lady, you're 56-year-old. You shouldn't be a DJ. How can you even consider wanting to be a DJ? But that's what she wants to do. That is what she loves doing. That's what is connected to her purpose, which is making people happy through music. And for her, the form in which she does that is being a DJ, mixing music, hip hop, R&B, Afrobeat. Those are some of her things. And she has stepped into that and said, this is what I want to do. I know other people will think I'm absolutely crazy, but that's okay, because this for me is part of, if I don't do this, this might become a regret, because I thought, what if?
Exactly.
What if I didn't give it a try? What if I didn't even try to become one? Doesn't matter where I end up with. She doesn't have to be the biggest DJ in the world, but at least I've stepped on that journey. I've taken the steps towards that journey and be able to do something that I love doing, and I'll see where it takes me.
Exactly. I think it was Les Brown or Jim Rohn that said the richest place on earth are the graveyards, because that's where all the lost dreams are and unmet but expectations of life. And I think that for me has also become kind of a mission that, let me give it a shot. Why not? You never know.
Yeah. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Exactly. Doesn't work out. Fine. Now I know. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So you're on a stage, provided you've been on stages, and you're talking to tens of thousands of women, and it's about being empowered to grow. What would be the lasting or the end message that you leave them with?
Beautiful question. The last thing that I would share is, if you feel, as you are listening to me right now, as I'm standing here on this stage, if you feel that you are called for something better, something more, something bigger, whatever the word is for you, what is the very first little step that you can take towards discovering what that is and how you can implement that for you? And take that step right now, right here, as you're sitting in this chair, without life happening around you. That would be my message.
I love that, because I told you, we resonate on so many levels. It's about the baby steps, isn't it? And it's about, Dean Graziosi keeps saying, it's about progress. And it's not about perfection. It's not about the leaps and strides. It's about taking a step today. Small steps. Yes. It could be a research, as you said. It could be a YouTube video. It could be a call, or it could be a post. Whatever it is, it's just about that thing.
Yeah, because let's be honest, what I've come to learn to believe is that most people think that you need confidence to take action. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you it's the other way around. Action breeds confidence.
That's true.
Taking a little step means that you've just told your brain it isn't scary at all. I've just taken a little step. So if I can just take another little step and another little step, and sometimes a bigger step, and then back a little step, that will build your confidence through that action, instead of trying to waiting until you can take some confidence pill and you instantly become confident, because that will never happen.
Exactly. Loubna, thank you for sharing your pearls of wisdom.
My absolute pleasure.
I'm going to put the links anyway, but where can our listeners and viewers connect with you on virtual space?
Well, in the virtual space, I am on all of the major social media platforms. So what I tend to share is that wherever your playground is, whether that is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Clubhouse, you can find me on there. So please feel free to follow me. And if you feel called to do so, please send me a message, whether you have a question or you have any other thing that you would like to share with me. I'm very open to that.
Thank you for empowering us to grow along. And with the tools and with your energy, it's really been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. And thank you.
Well, as always, as we know, being empowered to grow is a decision, and it's small steps, and it is incremental steps, and it's action that leads to courage. Thank you for joining us. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. For further engagement with a tribe of empowered women, join my Facebook group, Empowered to Grow, or visit my website, www.hananalbasha.com. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.